The Choices We Make by Monochromatic. Every Friday, from 5 in the afternoon to 11 at night, Pinkie Pie did volunteer work. It wasn't anything special, but she loved doing it anyways. She liked to help. 3 girls waited by their school's exit, as students often did when classes ended for the week. The chatter of adolescence on the cups of adulthood filled the air, every single one of them preoccupied with one of the most crucial details of their lives: what to do during the weekend.
Personally,
said Rarity, leaning against the railing of the stairs as she inspected her manicure.
I think we should go to the mall. They're having a summer sale on haute couture, and I'd like to get an early and affordable start on our outfits for the next concert.
Sitting on the stairs, Pinkie Pie did not reply. Not because she didn't want to, though. Rarity was always thinking of helping them all be super fashionable, and Pinkie appreciated it more than, well, she was going to say more than words can express, but she was sure she really could come up with a whole bunch of words if she really sat down and thought about it. But that day, as it happened every Friday, she had other things occupying her mind, and so she stared into the little notebook on her lap.
The mall? Rarity, we always go to the mall,
Rainbow Dash complained, bouncing a soccer ball on her foot. She kicked it against a nearby wall, caught it when it rebounded towards her, and then turned to her friends with a huff.
I'm picking today, and we're going somewhere better than the mall.
Different.
The words had come out of Pinkie's mouth, unbidden, a soft-voiced. She often did that, as she believed thoughts were meant to be shared. Rainbow nestled the ball under her arm and raised an eyebrow.
Huh?
It's not better than them all, it's just different. Don't do things better, do them differently,
she replied, turning the page of her notebook.
Yes, exactly.
Rarity replied, brushing a hand through her hair.
See, Rainbow Dash? Is it hard to be polite?
I wasn't being rude.
Rainbow protested.
The mall's fine and all, but I'm bored of it.
She tossed the ball towards Rarity and grinned when she caught it.
Sorry, Rares. Didn't mean to call your dumb mall lame.
Rarity giggled.
Such lies! I can't wait to see your nose start to grow.
She shot back, throwing the ball over to its owner. She then turned to Pinkie and crossed her arms.
Did you come up with that, Pinkie? I might steal it.
Nope, it was my boss at the center,
she explained, looking up.
Telling others to do things better is telling them what they were doing wasn't good enough. And that's silly, because you don't know if they were trying their best. But telling them to do things differently won't make them feel as if they weren't trying their best. You can't do things better. You can do them differently.
She looked back down at her notebook.
She calls it positive thinking.
Rarity hummed.
Yes, I see her point. Though I don't believe a mall cares very much if there are other places better than it, darling.
Wait, Pinkie?
Rainbow exclaimed.
You're not hanging out with us? Again? Come on. It's been probably 2 years since you last did anything with us on a Friday.
What? That is so not true!
Pinkie protested. It wasn't. Or was it?
Rainbow is right, Pinkie.
Rarity said, earning a satisfied harumph from Rainbow.
What with those extracurricular psychology classes and now your volunteer work, spending time with you on a Friday is rarer than a sale on ambrosia silk.
And that's why we hang out on Saturdays,
Pinkie offered, jumping up to a standing position and closing her notebook.
I gotta go now. Mrs. Cake is waiting for me.
You're leaving already? Come on, Pinks. Can't you cancel for once?
Rainbow insisted.
It's not like it's gonna kill them if you miss one day.
Pinkie blinked at her.
Rainbow,
she said carefully, and the severity in her tone was enough for the teen in question to step away. Suddenly, Pinkie puffed out her cheek and crossed her arms.
I can't do that. They're counting on me, and I want to help, silly.
Fine.
Rainbow relented, tossing the soccer ball into the air and catching it.
I can see it's important to you. Guess I'll just have to deal with hanging out with Rarity until the others get here.
She playfully stuck her tongue out at her friend.
Ew.
Rarity fluttered her eyelashes.
I love you too, Rainbow.
Pinkie giggled, slinging her backpack over her shoulder.
And I love you too.
Do you have everything, dearie?
Inside Sugar Cube Corner, Mrs. Cake ambled into the kitchen, carrying with her a tray full of assorted, mouth-watering pastry delectables. Though Pinkie was supposed to work Monday through Friday at Sugar Cube Corner, she was super duper lucky her boss allowed her to take Fridays off on condition she take the Saturday morning shifts instead. It also helped that Mrs. Cake approved of her volunteering.
Yippery!
Pinkie exclaimed, carefully tying together 2 boxes filled with cupcakes, brownies, cookies, and more.
I stopped by the shop to buy supplies, plus that really vanilla-y coffee everyone likes. I even found the decaf one for fireside chat.
And you didn't forget to pack the green tea muffin for Oolong?
Mrs. Cake asked, pulling a tray down and taking a third box of pastries.
I made it especially for her. I won't have her complaining that we forgot about her again.
I didn't! She'll be really happy, you'll see!
He took the 2 boxes and followed Mrs. Cake through the back door entrance, watching as her boss loaded the box onto the delivery bicycle. Once she'd done the same with all her own boxes, she got onto the bike and bid farewell to her boss, promising to bring the bike back later that night. The center she worked at wasn't very big, but there were others, of course, and a large one in the city, but the one she worked at was small and homely and local. It was 15 minutes away from Sugar Cube Corner, which made it easy to bring her pastries. Upon arriving, she wheeled her bike over to the little storage they reserved for her and then took the boxes of supplies. Seen from the outside, the center looked just like any other office building. It had a clean, white exterior, large square windows, and the only detail that stood out were the large band-aided hearts she painted on the wall on either side of the door. The front desk was manned by Honeydew Drops. She was an older woman with blonde hair, tied in a bun, and green eyes, often squinting at newcomers from behind her red glasses. She had a basket of lollipops she kept under her desk, which she offered to everyone that came in. If they seemed too thin for her taste, she offered 3 lollipops. She gave everyone 3 lollipops. Honeydew's favorite cupcake, by the way, was lavender mint. Pinkie knew everyone's favorite cupcake without exception. After accepting her 5 weekly lollipops and insisting that, yes, Honeydew, she is eating 3 full meals a day, she just had a fast metabolism, Pinkie opened the office doors and walked into what could only be described as a call center. Soft-spoken voices rose in the air. She called it the sound of hope.
Pinkie!
Pinkie turned around and found a young woman flagging her down from one of the many desks.
Oolong!
Pinkie called, not too loud, going over to her friend. Oolong wasn't much older than Pinkie. She was 23 and had a degree in psychology. Her headset had been decorated with a wide variety of stickers from some show she liked, and so did they decorate the majority of her desk.
Aren't you a sight for hungry stomachs?
Oolong said, smiling at her friend. She was very soft-spoken when she talked, like a mother to a child. She looked to the sides in a conspiratorial fashion and whispered,
Did you bring it?
Pinkie lowered her box.
The green tea muffin that's in my box?
Yes! Atta girl, Mrs. Cake.
Oolong exclaimed, rubbing her hands together and smacking her lips when Pinkie retrieved a green muffin from inside the topmost box.
How's your shift going?
Pinkie asked, watching Oolong devour the pastry.
You doing okay?
Oolong nodded.
I'm doing fine. Had a difficult call this morning, but one of my casuals called earlier and said she liked the movie I recommended. I did get a prank call, though. Some kid. I could hear his friends laughing in the background.
She licked her lips.
Stopped laughing when I read their number back to them and asked them if that was the right number to give the police.
Pinkie giggled.
Mimi, but they kinda deserve it.
She then passed and fidgeted with the strings of her box.
And no, gross calls, right?
No pervs today, no.
She said with a relief.
If that guy...
A ringing noise interrupted her, the same ringing noise that shot out throughout the room in uneven intervals. Months ago, when she was training, someone had called it the ringing of the hopeless. She called it the ringing of the fighters. Oolong smiled.
Thanks for the cupcake, Pinkie.
She put on her headset, smiled kindly, and spoke up to whoever was on the line.
Hi, thank you for reaching out to Ponyville's Crisis Lifeline. My name is Oolong, and I'm here to help you.
Suicide was a concept Pinkie did not fully understand. Even as she walked away from Oolong's desk, even as she quietly made her way down the hallway of deaths and people's fighting for others' lives, it was something she could not fully grasp despite her 2 months working at the Crisis Center. Her eyes roamed the walls, as they always did, imprinting on her the seemingly vacuous motivational lines that could make a difference between life and death. She walked towards the end of the room, past the operators, and only occasionally stopped by to talk with the few that were available. When she reached the other side, she saw her desk near the corner and near a window, as she politely requested. Pinkie didn't take calls, and not only did her superiors say she wasn't ready, she herself was not sure she could handle such a task. So instead, she helped those who could. She put down her boxes and backpack on her desk, took a moment to straighten the picture frame of her friends and the one of her co-workers at the annual luncheon, and then got to work with her checklist. She called it the Happy List. Truthfully, the acronym didn't actually stand for anything. She just always thought acronyms were fun, and she thought it would make Twilight proud. The best thing she'd ever managed to come up with was heartfelt actions purely for people to yay. She tried her best. Honest. Anyways, she wasn't a therapist. A year training would never be nearly enough for that. She didn't listen, or know what her coworkers talked about when they went into Dr. Quiet Resolve's office. Not to say they didn't talk to her, they did. Sometimes, about their lives and trivial details, but never about work. She knew it was because discretion was vital, but she wondered if it was because they didn't want to burden her. In every room, next to almost every wall, and taking up space of a whole table in the kitchen, Pinkie helped by keeping everyone happy. She made sure that the refrigerator was stocked with snacks and healthy foods, that there was always coffee and tea available, and that everyone had their favorite cupcakes, save for Silvertongue, who was on a diet and instead got a sugar-free cookie. It was hard for her to wrap her head around suicide. It was hard, even, to wrap her head around depression. She understood being sad, but it was hard for her to see people being constantly sad when she knew they were wonderful. One time, a once dear friend of hers had been very sad for a very long time. They'd been talking in Sugar Cube Corner, and so her friend had stormed off in a teary huff after Pinkie had advised her to just try to be happy, don't be sad. She had said Pinkie didn't understand, and so she took her psychology curriculum and volunteered so she could try to understand. Or try to help at least. Any help was good help, if she said so herself. And she did. She did say so. She just had to try in a different way. Cleaning was Pinkie's first duty, since Mrs. Featherduster left early on Fridays, and a clean office was a happy office. She took out the trash, refilled everyone's water bottles, and made sure the windows were clean and sunlight filtered properly into the rooms. Little things, little details, Dr. Resolve said. Those were the ones that matter when trying to help a friend. A drop of the rain can feel like a hurricane when you're sad. After cleaning was done, so came the rounds. The rounds were an important part of the day. She would linger in disturbance-free zones, as she called them, and wait until operators were off call to super discreetly walk by and see if they needed anything. Usually they didn't, and for the first month, Pinkie wondered if it wasn't silly of her to keep asking and making sure they needed anything, even if they looked okay. She then stopped for a day, and what a surprise when everyone kept asking where she'd gone. Boy, was she happy that day.
You're like a cat.
Softdown giggled, gratefully accepting the water bottle Pinkie brought her the second her current one was finished. She opened it, took a big gulp, and continued.
Just waiting for a chance, and then you pounce.
Dehydration is no joke, silly.
Pinkie exclaimed.
Who's gonna fill your water bottles if I don't?
Tell that to Fireside.
A co-worker behind her spoke, leaning away from his desk and grinning.
Always brings his massive soda bottle, and he still has to have with a water bottle every day? You know he's never gonna say yes to drinking water, right?
Pinkie crossed her arms.
I know, but it shows that I care.
She protested, sticking her tongue out at him. Softdown let out a delighted laugh.
Schooled by the intern. How does that feel like, Wendy?
Yeah.
He playfully grumbled, turning back to his computer. After she was done with her rounds, and everyone had their cupcakes and water bottles, she finally tasked herself with the most important part of the day, even more important than the rounds, the quiet room. She liked the quiet room. It had some chairs and mattresses, and it was there where her friends went after a difficult call or when they needed time to think. Dr. Resolve told her that they had similar rooms in other crisis centers, like the Emergency Dispatch Center. Once she prepared her box with supplies, she walked over to the quiet room. Its wooden door was closed, and a peek through the oval window on it revealed a man sitting inside, his face buried in his hands. Her heart sank, and she moved away, putting the box down, and quietly waiting. Goldheart was inside. He'd only been an operator for a few weeks now. He used the quiet room a whole lot. Pinkie waited and waited. Dr. Resolve had told her to try and avoid coming into the room when someone was inside. It could jolt them away from their thoughts, and even if she felt like they needed help, the doctor assured her they would seek it out if that was the case. So, while she waited, she did another quick round, ate a cupcake, heartily discussed the idea of getting a therapy kitten for the center with Honeydew, wrote a list of 10 kitten names, left 3 cupcakes on Goldenheart's desk, and finally, once Golden had gone back to work, went into the quiet room to restock the snacks and mini fridge. There was a plastic table at the end of the room. She threw away all the garbage, and once she restocked the mini fridge, got to work with the snacks. Or rather, she got to work until the door opened, and an older man walked in, a pack of cigarettes in his hand.
Oh, Fireside!
she exclaimed.
I won't be long.
Fireside shrugged.
Take your time.
Pinkie watched as he made his way across the room, and so did she place her hands on her hips and pout when he opened the window and took a cigarette out of his pack.
Fireside! You're not supposed to smoke in here.
She exclaimed. Fireside stared at her for a moment before pulling up a chair, placing it next to the window, sitting down, and then lighting up his cigarette. Pinkie huffed, but she knew she had to pick her battles.
Well, fine.
Fireside had been working at the center the longest. He and Dr. Resolved had known each other from their last job at the Emergency Dispatch Service Center, which is why the doctor probably let him get away with little things.
Did you have a tough call?
Pinkie asked, trying to break the ice.
You could say that.
He replied, taking a puff and blowing the smoke out the window.
How old are you, Pinkie?
He suddenly asked, making sure the chocolate candies weren't confused with the gum ones.
Aren't you still in high school?
Yep, but I'm graduating next year, and I'll be 18 soon.
She replied.
Why'd you ask? Gonna get me a birthday present? Huh?
Don't get excited, pal.
He replied, raising an eyebrow. He then smiled.
Well, maybe a little excited, but you didn't hear it from me.
Pinkie giggled, gesturing a zipping motion of her mouth.
Still don't know why you're here, though.
He said.
17-year-olds don't usually want to spend their Friday afternoons at a place like this. Don't you have parties to go to with your friends?
Oh no, my friends always organize parties on Saturdays so I can come.
Pinkie quickly explained, putting away her leftover supplies.
They know I can't do anything on Fridays. They're okay with it, except for my friend Dashi. She always wants to spend time with me.
He grunted.
Doesn't say much about her if she holds your volunteering here against you.
Horror struck Pinkie like a slap to the face.
No, it doesn't. She's still supportive.
She quickly said.
She and the others don't know what I volunteer for. I only tell them I work for a center.
He was surprised by this.
Really? You haven't told them?
He asked, and so did she feel a knot in her throat when he stubbed his cigarette out against the frame of the window.
Why not?
And to this, Pinkie didn't quite know the answer.
I guess because I don't want to make them super sad.
She ventured, even though she knew that wasn't entirely the reason.
I see.
He reached over with his foot and pulled the chair over by the leg.
You got time?
Though it was phrased as a question, something told her it wasn't, so she carefully walked over and sat down. He observed her for a moment before prompting,
So, you haven't told them because you don't want to make them sad.
Pinkie swallowed.
Well, nobody really wants to talk about stuff like that.
And just because nobody wants to talk about it means nobody should?
He asked, and she felt very much like when she was being questioned by Vice Principal Luna after the super sticky pie incident.
No, it's super important to talk about it.
He stayed silent for a moment and then leaned back into his chair.
Do you know what it means to be casually suicidal?
Suicide isn't casual.
She exclaimed at once, indignant on behalf of the many people who tried everything else before that. Suicide was always the last option a person felt they had.
Calm down, Pinkie. I know it isn't, and I don't mean it that way.
Fireside said, hushing her down with a gesture. He then nodded to her jean pocket.
You have your cell phone? Go on Twitter and look up tweets in your high school's area.
Though she was confused, Pinkie obeyed, taking out her cell phone and doing as instructed. When the search feed came up, he extended his hand.
May I? I promise I won't look at anything else.
Sure,
She exclaimed, handing the phone over to him and watching as he scrolled down.
No.
He murmured as he scrolled, until finally he cleared his throat.
Fourth tweet, quote, At that point in the semester where I don't look both ways when jaywalking. Hashtag KMS. That hashtag's popular too, isn't it?
He stopped, looked at her, looked back at the phone, and kept scrolling.
Here, seventh tweet. Good morning, Twitter. The sun is shining and I want to die. No. Here, 10th tweet, and with a screenshot.
He turned the phone to Pinkie, and she saw what looked like a desolate cartoon character laying in bed.
Me deciding if I should wake up for school or stay in bed until I die.
Pinkie stayed silent when he stopped. He locked the phone, handed it back to her, and asked,
What do you think about that?
Well, that's not really nice things to say, but they don't mean it.
She offered, fidgeting in her seat. She unlocked her phone and looked at the feed.
No one should even joke about it, but This tweet is from Eventide and I know her. She's just joking.
Is she?
He asked.
How are you so sure?
Pinkie faltered.
I'm not.
Huh. What's the saying? Many a true word is often spoken in jest. It's easy to say things like that as a joke, because if people don't take it seriously or it makes them uncomfortable, well, hey, it's just a joke.
Pinkie stood up almost immediately, balling her fists.
I'd never not take it seriously.
But your friends won't know that if you don't show them you do take it seriously.
Pinkie's hands loosened.
Oh.
You know why we get so many calls?
He asked. Pinkie sat down in her chair, kicking at the floor like a chastised child.
Because they don't think anyone else will take them seriously.
Among many other reasons.
He said.
Not wanting to burden your loved ones, or not wanting them to worry, or feeling you're not worth worrying over because it's not serious.
She deflated a bit.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. You're learning. We all are.
He said.
You just have to start talking about it. Show people it's something serious, even when they don't think it is at first. Remember what Quiet says.
Pinkie nodded.
Positive thinking!
She exclaimed. Jumping up to a standing position, she lifted her hand and saluted him.
Yes, sir!
He laughed.
Don't call me sir. It makes me feel old.
He got up and threw the remainder of his cigarette into a nearby trash bin.
Now, let's get back to work before Dr. Resolve comes and nags me.
He took a few steps towards the door and added,
Oh, and bring me one of your water bottles, will you please? Figure I might as well, since you won't tell the good doctor about my smoking.
Pinkie giggled.
What smoking?
Nighttime had long settled in the sky by the time Pinkie made it back to Sugar Cube Corner. As she approached, she noticed the lights still lit in the shop and wondered if Mrs. Cake had stayed up waiting for her. However, when she stepped into the shop, bicycle in tow, she was surprised to find a familiar rainbow-haired teenager sitting on a chair and idly scrolling through her phone.
Dashie?
She asked, alerting her friend to her presence.
What are you doing here?
Oh, hey.
Rainbow said, putting her phone away.
Mrs. C said I could crash here until you came back.
Aw, you were waiting for me?
Pinkie asked, grinning widely. She rested the bike against a wall and joined her friend.
I thought you were going to spend the day with the girls.
I did.
Rainbow said, grabbing a nearby salt shaker and playing with it.
But
You...
Pinkie prompted, watching as her friend rather noticeably avoided eye contact. Rainbow put the salt shaker down on the table.
I feel bad for earlier. Like, dissing your volunteer stuff. I know it's important to you and stuff, and I guess I just miss you more.
Aww.
Pinkie's heart swelled, and she extended her hand to take Rainbow's.
I really like spending time with you too.
Rainbow grinned.
Of course you do. Who doesn't? People line up to hang out with me, you know.
She took the salt shaker again and played with the cap.
So, yeah. Sorry about not taking your volunteering stuff seriously.
Seriously, talk about it.
I volunteer at the local suicide helpline center.
The reaction was immediate.
You what?
Rainbow asked, dropping the salt shaker and looking at her friend as though she was ill.
Why? Are you okay?
She placed her hands on the table.
Why would you even... Pinkie, is there something you haven't told me?
No, I'm fine.
She quickly said, raising her arms defensively.
Pinkie promise. I want to help, but I'm okay, really.
Rainbow relaxed, slightly.
Oh, well.
She leaned back.
Wow. The suicide helpline. That's like... Oh.
She drifted off, her eyes widening and her face turning white. She crossed her arms on the table and buried her face into them, groaning loudly.
What's wrong?
Pinkie asked, confused.
I told you it wouldn't kill them to let you skip a day. That's what's wrong.
Rainbow muttered, groaning again.
Now I feel even worse than before.
She lifted her head and glared at her friend.
You could have said something, Pinks.
I know.
Pinkie said.
And I did now. So you can stop feeling bad because you didn't know. And how would you have known when I didn't tell you?
Yeah, I guess.
Rainbow replied, sitting up straight and rubbing the back of her head.
Man, though. Suicide hotlines? That's heavy.
She licked her lips and frowned.
Is it, like... What's it like? The calls, I mean.
Oh, I don't take calls.
Pinkie clarified.
I don't think I can do that yet. But but I help around the center and make sure everyone's comfortable.
Rainbow crossed her arms.
Yeah, that must be hard for them.
It's even harder for the ones calling.
Pinkie replied.
And lots of them call us because they feel like they have no one else to talk about it with. So I want to help. People shouldn't be afraid to talk about what they feel.
Rainbow didn't reply, lost in thought, and so did Pinkie feel a tug at her heart. Fireside's words whispered into her mind, and she put a hand on Rainbow's arms.
You'd totally tell me if you felt sad, right, Dashie?
Rainbow snorted.
I'm never sad.
Really?
Rainbow nodded.
Yeah, really.
She then faltered.
Well, I mean,
A light blush flashed down her cheeks, and she looked away.
Maybe the other day maybe wondered if I wasn't good enough at, stuff.
Pinkie blinked.
Not good enough at stuff.
Immediately, she jumped up, filled with righteous anger.
What? You're totally the best at stuff! Who made you feel like you aren't? I'll fight them!
Whoa, calm down.
Rainbow exclaimed, smiling at her friend.
No one said anything, you dork. I was the one thinking about it.
You? I'll fight you!
Pinkie exclaimed. She balled her fists and put them down. Rainbow snorted.
Fight me? Bring it.
She jumped up and balled her fists. Of course, not even 5 seconds passed before both friends began to laugh and fall back down into their chairs.
Silly Rainbow Dash,
Pinkie said, rolling her eyes.
You're totally the best at stuff. You're even better than me at stuff.
Hey,
Rainbow said, raising an eyebrow.
I'm not better than you. I'm different.
Rainbow!
Pinkie exclaimed.
You actually remembered!
Oh my gosh!
Rainbow gasped.
It's almost like I care about what you tell me.
She giggled and stuck out her tongue.
Listen, I know I think I'm the awesomest, but you gotta give me more credit here, dork.
She cleared her throat and looked around.
Anyway, we better ditch this joint before Mrs. C kicks us out. Do you want to, hang out more?
Pinkie nodded.
Yep, where'd you want to go?
Rainbow hummed.
Well, there's that sketchy taco joint near my house that, never closes. You can stay over at my place if you want.
Pinkie nodded.
Ooh, taco sounds super good!
And super cheap, too.
Rainbow added. They got up and cleaned up after themselves. After Pinkie made sure to leave the bicycle in its proper place, she followed Rainbow outside and locked the shop.
Hey, Pinkie?
Pinkie turned around and found Rainbow rubbing the back of her neck.
What's up?
She asked. Rainbow seemed to hesitate for a moment.
You don't think it's dumb that I feel like I'm not good enough at stuff?
Pinkie shook her head.
Nope, I think it's super duper important.
She extended her hand and smiled.
Want to talk about it?
Rainbow stared at the hand for a moment before smiling earnestly.
Yeah.
She replied, interlocking her fingers with Pinkie and walking off side by side.
I'd really like that.